Hey guys, this is Argatha, and today I'm going to teach you about spell forms. Now, if you've played around with a spell system and tried combining different elements together, you may have noticed that, well, there are just a whole bunch of different combinations that you can do, and it can be a little overwhelming. But if you think about these, if you break these down, all these different spells, into their basic spell forms, then it can make it a lot easier for you to conceptualize all these spells and remember which ones you want to do. So what are the spell forms? Well, you got sprays. Those are fire, water, cold, and steam. So you got fire, cold, water, and steam is water and fire combined. Now, there's not a whole lot you can do with these as far as customization. You can pretty much only add more fire, or more water, or more cold. That's because the other elements will change the spell form of the basic spray. So what else do we have? We've got lightning, and we've got earth, which makes the rock projectile. And then you have water plus cold makes ice, and that's another delivery mechanism. And then you have life and death. And then a special one is earth, but self-cast, which makes the earthquake. The more earth you have in the spell, the wider the earthquake is. So, what can you do with these different spell forms? Well, as I said, there's not a whole lot you can do with the sprays, because they're the lowest level, or the lowest priority of spell form. But you can do some stuff that's pretty cool with lightning. So, lightning in and of itself is pretty cool. But, if you think of it as a delivery mechanism for the different status effects, you can add lightning, or you can use lightning as your delivery mechanism to deliver fire damage. And you can increase that to make it do 2 ticks of lightning damage, or 2 ticks of fire damage instead of just 1. So I can do the same thing with frost, and I can do the same thing with death and life. Same thing with rocks. I could just shoot a big rock and it'll do a lot of damage. But maybe I see somebody on the other side and I need to hit them with fire damage. Now I can do the same thing with beams. Those are pretty easy to block. So in a lot of cases I'll want to do a fireball. And all I'm doing is using the rock or the earth projectile as a delivery mechanism for fire damage. And I can use a rock as a delivery mechanism for cold damage, or water, or death. Same thing with quakes. I can add fire damage to my quake. I can add cold damage to my quake, or water, or death, or life, if you feel like you want to troll your friends. And you can also do it with steam and ice. Now you may have noticed that I haven't mentioned shield. Actually, let's cover beams. Same thing with beams. You can apply fire to apply the burning status effect with your beam, or you can do it with cold, or water, or steam. And you can do the same thing with life. So you can use your healing beam to put out somebody's fire by using a water beam or a cold beam. Or, maybe your opponents are trying to freeze one of your buddies, so you can hit them with a fire healing beam and keep him up and keep him hot so that he can't get frozen. So, like I said, I haven't mentioned shield yet, and that's because shield takes you to the next level of spell forms. So what are those? Well, there are actually 3 different types of spell forms that you can get using shield. The first are mines, and that's just death or life plus the shield. So I have this delivery mechanism. So how does this work? Well, if somebody walks over them, they'll explode. and they'll knock them up a little bit, and they'll do some damage. Same thing with life. If I walk over them, they'll do life damage, which of course is healing. So this is a pretty good mine. But if you're trying to kill your opponent, you probably want to do this. And that's just stacking more death on that death mine. But you can also add status effects to it. So instead of adding another death, you add fire. And you have fire mines. You've got cold mines. You've got water mines. So what are the other forms? Well, you've got storms. If you add a spray or lightning to shield, it'll make a storm. So whenever somebody walks through this, it's going to apply that status effect. It won't blow up, and as long as they stand in it, they're going to continue to take that damage, and they're going to continue to get that status effect applied to them. Now, there's not a whole lot of customization for these unless you add in lightning, but lightning is pretty cool. So you can add a lightning storm, and then you can add cold to it. You get this wide arc, and it'll do frost damage and lightning damage, and you get the mini stuns from the lightning. You do the same thing with fire. And death and life. And the last one is the wall. And this is when you combine shield with earth. And just like all the other spell forms, you can add stuff to it. Now when you add stuff to it, they act a little bit different than just the base wall. This one will last for quite a long time. They block physical damage. But if you add something like fire to your wall, it becomes unstable. It has a much shorter duration, and when its duration is up, it will detonate and it'll do fire damage. Same thing with the cold wall. Same thing with the death wall. And the life wall, which is key for turtling. And you've got the water wall, which is pretty fun to play around with. So to recap, the spell forms are the sprays, the lightning, the rock projectile, the ice, quakes, beams, storms, walls, and mines. Then lastly, but definitely not the least, in fact these are one of the most important spell forms that you should know, is the wards. I cover that more extensively in another tutorial, but basically if you cast shield with any other elements, any other combination of elements, and you self-cast it, you'll get this, and it allows you to resist damage. But as I said, for more information on that, just check out my ward tutorial. I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope it makes it easier for you to remember all of these different spells, and to ease some of the confusion of playing this game for the first time. So, until next time, catch you later.